It's Holly Dunaway, former boxing champion. Let's talk anxiety. A lot of people have dealt with it. I didn't really understand it when I first started struggling with it. Let me start by saying it's behind me now. I had some struggles. As you can imagine, any prize fighter that gets in the ring, especially in a foreign country, there might be a little bit of nerves involved before you step into that ring, which is totally natural. So I would be back in my dressing room, and I'm completely prepared for these fights. I would give up my life for a couple of months to train for each fight, and I ate what I was supposed to eat. I slept exactly. I did everything right. I envisioned myself every single night winning the fight. I never let doubt in. I had, strength and conditioning coaches. I had running coaches. I had boxing coaches. I had it all. I had, every reason to feel confident. But when I was back in that dressing room before the fight, when I was listening to the announcer and waiting to come out, outside I looked calm. I looked like, like I could handle this really well, and nothing was affecting me. Most of the time I was taking a nap until it was like time to wrap my hands and warm up. I did that because I didn't want to deal with the anxiety. Because inside, I wanted to go crawl in a hole somewhere and hide. And it was just the crowd, I guess. I also faced that a little bit whenever I would get in the ring and make speeches. Anytime I did like boxing commentating, it was obviously the crowd that was doing it to me, and not the getting punched in the face, because I didn't really have this anxiety in the boxing gym. And a lot of times I wasn't getting to spar some 110-pound female. I was having to take what I could get. It was 120-pound pro male. It also carried over whenever I started getting into wrestling. I was just putting myself in more situations to be nervous and to experience my higher self and intuition being like, hey, you shouldn't do this, because that's exactly what anxiety is. But sometimes if you can overcome that, then it's definitely worth it. And my first time really getting to experience anxiety shutting me down, like somewhat of an anxiety disorder, was I was on my way to the airport, and I was headlining this mixed fighting show in Vegas. So I was really nervous about it. I was on my way there, and I started kind of like panicking and hyperventilating, and my face down here, it went completely numb. I couldn't feel it, and my hands kind of got stuck. Yeah, I'm freaking out. I have no idea what this is. And so I'm pulling over on the side of the interstate. I'm Googling, heart attack symptoms, because my heart's beating out of my chest. And yeah, an anxiety attack and a heart attack have very similar symptoms. So, Google's got me convinced. I just self-diagnosed a heart attack. Eventually, I have to call an ambulance, and the ambulance comes. They ask some questions. They're like, okay, you're a professional athlete. Chances are you're not having a heart attack. This sounds like anxiety. So I'm like, me? Anxiety? Like, I'm the headstrong one here. So I'm thinking, like, this is all in my head. That means I can still go get on that plane. And they're like, well, theoretically. So they're like, we'll hook you up to a little EKG machine. They put the little stickers on me and looked at my heart just to make sure. And heart's fine. I just was, kind of panicking a little bit inside. And once I figured out that it was all in my head, I was just thinking like, oh, I'm being weak-minded. Now that I know it's all in my head, I can overcome this, right? So the ambulance leaves, and 3 other times I tried to head back to the airport. But the same thing would happen, and I couldn't. I physically could not. Until finally I gave up. I'm like, my body is betraying me. This is obviously not for me. I finally listened to that intuition. and I turned the car around, and within like probably 4 or 5 minutes, I was okay. Um, that was the first sign of it. This happened a few more times when I was driving to, I would do driving tours and, hit like all the northeastern cities that are a couple of miles away from each other and just do a little fighting tour, just with like boxing and wrestling. Yeah, it happened. I would be like short of sleep, or I would have had like an alcoholic drink or something. There's certain things that can kind of exacerbate it. So I thought I'm going to self-medicate, and I get my hands on some anti-anxiety medication. Huge mistake. So at first you feel amazing. You feel like I could say anything, I can do anything, I'm invincible. I have no fear to do anything, not even healthy fear. So I'm taking these anti-anxiety meds, and they have a lot of side effects. They cause like memory loss, and sometimes you don't always make like the best decisions. I mean, luckily I've always had good people around me, so it could have been worse. As I'm trying to self-medicate, the anxiety is getting out of control. It's gotten now to where my body cannot regulate the adrenaline that goes through it. It can't regulate the emotions of being nervous. It's just, I'm immediately like, oh, I need to turn to this medication to even function in life. And so quickly I knew that I needed to get off these meds. I wasn't on them for a really long time because, like the people around me, they weren't all signed up for being around an idiotic version of me. So I didn't really have a support system, nor should I have had a support system for Xanax, because it just, it wasn't for me. It wasn't beneficial to me. Some anxiety is actually a good thing. I keep going back to intuition. And if you could just listen to it and maybe put yourself in less bad situations like I should have done, then you can get a hold of your anxiety and your emotions a lot easier. So that's all I really needed to do, is just start listening to that inner voice and stop forcing myself to do things that I had no business doing. And I'm still competing for a living, and but I listen to my internal monologue. About a year, I still had the trauma of my body kind of shutting down on me, and so I would keep like a half a Xanax in my purse at all times, as a just in case. But I would hope that I never needed to take it again, because I knew how dangerous it was, and that it kind of built up a dependency to where I needed to take it. So I just kept it available at all times. And then, I don't know, just some time passed. It was maybe like a year or year and a half, and I realized, like, what am I still carrying this medication around with me for? I haven't taken it in a year and a half. So that moment right there was really empowering, and I just threw it in the garbage. I've never needed it again. And now that I kind of listen to that inner monologue a lot better, and stop ignoring my own emotions, and then I don't really, I don't suffer from anxiety anymore. Also, anxiety is a byproduct of overthinking things, and especially things that are out of our control, or things that we could do on autopilot. We're so programmed to do these things that it doesn't require a lot of stress or a lot of thought. So if we could just have confidence in our programming, we're so programmed. If we could just have confidence in our subconscious programming, then we wouldn't have anxiety. You can do so many things on autopilot. I hope this helps someone who is struggling with anxiety, and you can just start listening to it and not letting it control you. Like, just notice when something makes you uncomfortable, and see if there's another way to go about it, and see if your stress level is rational. see if there's, if thinking about this particular thing is, of course, it's causing you anxiety and stress, but do you need to think about it? Some things you need to plan and prepare for, and, you need to give it a little bit of thought. But some things you're already prepared for. You're just sitting there overthinking it, and it's not beneficial. So if you can recognize when it's beneficial and when it's not, and just trust yourself, trust your programming, and trust your subconscious, because our subconscious is really pretty clever, and it knows better. Our conscious knows better than we do, and our subconscious is a computer program that we can rely on, because most things that we think about, we've already thought about it, and we're totally prepared to do it on autopilot. So just stop overthinking everything. All right, guys, I'll see you tomorrow on hollydunaway.com or on YouTube.